Attack on Titan Season 4 Episode 23, titled Sunset. In the last episode of Attack on Titan, we had quite the action-packed episode, with loads of Titan killing and revelations. After Zeke failed to use the power of the founding Titan to euthanize the Eldians, all of the Titans he was controlling started to act on their own, making Paradis into a literal horror scene, with pure Titans causing havoc everywhere. We also saw Gabi saving the Blouse family from the now Titanized Mr. Now, the death of Commander Pixis, the return of Flock, and the most important part of the episode, which was the return of Annie, who has now been freed from her crystal after 4 long years. But what will she do now that she's woken up? So today I'm going to be breaking down and analysing this latest episode of Attack on Titan, while clearing up some things you might have missed or weren't sure about. So if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Attack on Titan content. And let's get right into the video. With the beginning of episode 23, we get to briefly see the mindsets of the residents of Paradis after the rumbling was initiated, and naturally there will be mixed opinions. With the collapse of the walls and the Colossal Titans marching, many innocents lost their lives, despite the fact that the rumbling is the only form of protection for Paradis from the rest of the world who seeks their destruction. And as the tension rises between citizens, we see Hitch again, who is helping to minimize the damage and save lives. In the next scene, we have Hitch entering headquarters to get more people and supplies, only for her to be snuck up on by Annie, who threatens to slice her neck open if she doesn't comply. And honestly, what a way for the former 2 roommates to be reunited. Hitch then flips Annie onto the ground and the 2 reach a stalemate due to the potential bluff of Annie being able to turn into a Titan or not, since she was trapped in the crystal for so many years and may or may not have the energy to turn into a female Titan form. But moving on from this, Hitch decides to help Annie escape from Paradis, since she doesn't plan on making the situation any worse and has no intention of staying. We then learn from Annie that during those 4 years she spent in the crystal, she's been conscious the whole time. And from when Armin and Hitch will come to talk to her, she was decently informed on the events going on outside, and she's done a lot of self-reflecting. So just a quick refresher, since I got a comment regarding this under my last video. If you forgot why Annie was trapped in that crystal, which is natural since it's been many years since we've actually seen it in the series, after she lost the battle to Eren and the Survey Corps in Season 1's finale and was cornered, she ended up hardening and forming a crystal around her body to prevent herself from being killed, all for the reason of returning to her father, who she made a promise to. And with that being said, while Annie and Hitch are riding on a horse, we get to hear Annie's backstory. We learned that she was abandoned by her birth parents since her mother was having an affair with her Eldian, which is similar to Reiner's situation now that I think about it, although he only didn't have his father in his life. But anyway, Annie was taken in by an Eldian from another nation who trained her in martial arts so that she could become a warrior. Since we know Eldians who become warriors in Marley gain the title of honorary Marleyans and get treated just a bit better than your average Eldian. And it makes them and their family exempt from being shipped to Paradis or being used as pure Titans for war. So Annie's father initially was just using her as a means to save his own life, but when the time came for her to actually go to Paradis on the mission to retake the founding Titan, he regretted his actions and wanted nothing but for his daughter to come home alive, which is why they made a promise. So it's clear that Annie's upbringing is a cause for her stoic nature, but she really loves her father and even claims that she knows that she's committed grave sins, but she would do it all over again just to return to him. And I feel like her backstory definitely added that little bit of depth to her character that was needed. Because honestly, before this, Annie was just viewed by many as a killing machine with no emotions, which isn't the case. And with Season 4 constantly highlighting the desensitization of these Eldians who grew up in Marley on multiple occasions, it just makes her more understandable. Although I'll never forget what she did to the original Levi squad. However, moving on from Annie and Hitch, we see the Eldians in Marley trying to warn the Marleyan military of the threat of the rumbling. But naturally the Marleyans don't believe them since they aren't Eldian and didn't witness the declaration from Eren themselves, since only subjects of Ymir are all linked by way of coordinate, also known as the founding Titan. We then see Armin and Mikasa discussing about the current situation at hand, and Armin basically wants to retrieve Falco from Connie so that they can remain on good terms with Gabi and the warriors. Despite the pure hopelessness of the situation, Armin wants to try and do whatever he can, and from his expressions and words you can just tell he honestly didn't even know what his next step was. He just knows that he can't allow the world to be killed off. And in his hopelessness, he even says that Eren was the one who should have been brought back to life, not him. Shortly after this, we see Gabi saying goodbye to the Blouse family and thanking them and Kaya for everything they did for her, as she and Armin head off to stop Connie from feeding Falco to his mother. And with the final portion of the episode, we have quite a lot going on. We get to see more into Flock's mind and his ideals. After Eren activated the rumbling, effectively destroying the Marleyan volunteers' mission, Flock offers the remaining members a chance to join the Yeager side and makes an example of one volunteer who decided to be stubborn. And this man Flock literally shot him in the head multiple times to simply get his point across that it's much easier to surrender, especially when in the face of overwhelming power, which in this case is the rumbling, so the volunteers might as well join their side since Eren's going to destroy the rest of the world. And this part here where Flock was talking about submission and that it's not worth dying for pride is a nice subtle callback to season 3 where Flock was initially introduced to us. Being a new member of the Survey Corps, Flock was the only survivor of Erwin's death charge, and before the charge he questioned Erwin, saying that no matter how we die, even if it's disobeying orders, it all means nothing, right? To which Erwin said that he's right. And Erwin, being the man he was, still managed to convince them to charge to their deaths, but I know that if Flock wasn't convinced, Flock of the past anyway to be precise, he definitely would have ran away. And after being the only survivor, he's come to this conclusion that pride is nothing worth dying for. Because even though he survived, all those people who got laid to waste by Zeke that day literally died meaningless deaths in his eyes, and he knew that they all regretted their decisions, which is the truth. It was even touched upon slightly in season 3. And I really like Flock's realistic approach to things, even though he's extreme and definitely takes things too far. And it's also just that selfishness of a human being which is justifiable that is portrayed through Flock's character that I really like. That wanting to live and doing whatever necessary to accomplish that, despite the opinion from others or whether it's morally correct. It isn't an insane concept, so it's definitely something I understand. However, he says that now they have freedom and that he plans on dealing with any sort of resentment within the island, while Eren takes care of their enemies outside Paradis. And with the very last scenes, we see Connie and Falco riding towards Ragako village and Hange walking towards Peak and Magath, saying that the man being dragged by the horse, which is Levi, is harmless and refuses to die. And with that, we come to the end of the episode. Episode 23 was definitely a good episode. It was pretty chill, honestly, and I'd definitely say my favourite part of the episode was the beginning with Annie's backstory. As I said during the video, I think it definitely added some needed characterization to her, and this episode definitely has started to set us up for some great things to come, especially now that we found out that Levi is still alive. So I'll give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. And also, I really like the whole landscape of this episode with the effects of the rumbling. It was done really well. But let me know what you guys thought of the episode down below, and if you had any questions you'd like me to answer or something you want me to elaborate on, be sure to comment it down below and I'll be sure to respond. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss an upload. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.